what I really wanted to do in the storytelling was to take history, which is kind of this fixed thing that we make out of official documents and reports, and to compare and contrast it to memory. Because both are just as important. How something happened according to some stats is just as important as how you remember it, in terms of how they influence your life today. So the way that the story comes together is the book is sort of a meta history of the crack epidemic, crack's rise and fall, but sort of woven in between are the lives of 4 individuals who survived the period as they remember it. And that is just both qualitative and quantitative research.
As you're talking about it, I think about, you say that black folk are often reported on, overly reported on, but not understood. And they're not the center of their stories. I like you're employing that language. And I'm thinking of Ralph Ellison in Invisible Man, this idea of there being any and everything about black folk that are put center except for who they are.
Yeah.
And therefore they are in fact invisible. And I see that what you have done with When Crack Was King is you lend visibility not only to that very specific experience, but the hope is that in reading that you're able to generalize and complicate black folk beyond that specificity of this crack experience, right? So I love it. It's just brilliant work.
I should add too that some of the stuff that I think people have responded to in the book, that those are not things that I learned in journalism school. No one in journalism school encouraged me to mix qualitative and quantitative reporting. People didn't encourage me to take people who are impacted by the news and make them experts, to put them at the center of the story or at the top of the story. That those are things that I learned from my experience here in Morehouse. And I don't want to beat that over the head, but just being here, it's amazing to me because there are so many things that I think of as being very Morehouse, being made to present in every class, or lit reviews for everything that you do. But that's what made the book good, right? The amount of study and literature that I read before I wrote it helped me craft that history.
Yeah.
Being, I'm normally a shy person, but being forced in most classes to do a group project and then present it, stand up in front of the class, that those are experiences that other students don't get, that make it so that I can do stuff like this.
So I want to see if there are any folks who might have questions for Donovan. We have about 10 minutes before I think we're going to bounce. There are questions, there are microphones here at the front, should you have questions for him. And then I have a couple of more for you too.
Okay.
But,
Hey, what high school did you go to? Okay.
Yes, sir. So I just first wanted to express my gratitude because I see so much of my goals in you, and so this was a very powerful thing for me to be able to observe that. So I got quite a few questions here, but I'm gonna choose one that I think is the most beneficial. So I want to go into journalism for grad school, and I actually want to go to Columbia. And so I guess my question for you is what would you advise to someone like me with very similar goals as you? You had mentioned that there were things that you have learned that you should be weary of, or that you should be advised of, so that you don't hit a wall.
Yeah.
And I think that's how you phrased it. But so what are some things that you would advise to someone who's trying to go on the same path as you?
Yeah. I think that the first thing that I would say is go into Columbia with the awareness that Columbia is lucky to have you, that you are helping to make the experience that students have there better, and that also you'll be paying a lot of money for it. So you need to get everything that you want out of that experience. If you want to, use the studio there to shoot your own TV show, there's a full, news desk, several cameras set up there. Use that, rent that space. If you want to take out, telescopic lenses to go shoot, a local football game, those resources are there. use them. If you want to just start a podcast, you know, like there are audio, like, you know, when I was there, I should say, I felt very lucky to be there. And I also didn't understand the exchange that was going on. I thought that these were people that, you know, wanted to, and they did want to educate me, but that the things that you in particular need as a journalist, you have to define for yourself and you have to really demand, especially because we're paying a lot of money. Yeah.
Can I say this? I want to add, there are a couple of things. Because Jelani Cobb is the dean of the journalism school at Columbia University now, which is a huge tectonic shift from deans who were there before. And one of the things that I think about is with Jelani being there and with him being so firmly locked into our culture, diasporic culture, but also contemporary culture, I think that there are so many different opportunities that you have to be yourself and to be comfortable in those spaces. I imagine, at least that's what I said when I found out he was going to be dean.
I think so.
But one of the things that he did recently was in celebrating hip hop. I don't remember what it was, what the title of it was, but he celebrated all those folks who were pivotal in hip hop journalism. So, you know, those folks who many folks will see in podcasts now, like Elliot and Danielle and folks like that, but looking at Mimi Valdez, folks who were the architects of Vibe magazine, of The Source magazine. Greg Tate was celebrated because of his work with Village Voice. Of course, we know Miles Marshall Lewis, who's a graduate of Morehouse College and things like that. Can you talk about the significance of, and I think you stepped into kind of the tail end of that, to me, right? This idea of telling the stories of those folks who are offering narratives of black and brown folk through music. Can you talk about the significance of that?
Yeah, like I just finished a profile of Andre 3000 not too long ago. It was right before the album came out. That's like a little bit of a flex.
That's awesome.
But like the thing about it that's so dope is that like as a journalist, you have the opportunity to work along with artists in a way to advance the meaning of their work. Because once an artist releases something, especially like a major black artist, and we know that hip hop culture is pop culture, that it goes out into the world and sometimes it can be distorted by mainstream press. But what hip hop journalists do is, you know, you take a shared set of references, cultural references, and then we're able to like be co-creators in a sense and kind of making meaning. So, you know, I think about the profile that you did of Lil Wayne back in the day, where Dr. Rice is the first person to document Lil Wayne using bling bling. Even though I think you were kind of hard on him about,
I'm not going into that on stage. Yeah.
about having diamonds in his teeth. But, you know, that is a phrase now that is, it is culture, right? People refer to jewelry as bling. But it takes somebody like you hearing him say it and knowing that it's like a remarkable thing to actually document. And that's the role I think of the hip hop journalist.
He said, "Wardy, I got 50 G's worth of platinum in my mouth. I got an expensive conversation." I said, "Oh, that's gonna be a blow quote."
Right.
Yes, sir.
Before you introduce myself, getting into the thought, I want to start with saying that one thing I realized that when you being an artist on press tours and press tours about rock music, I think that's something that is deeply beneficial to like truly understanding their work, because you're able to truly see outside of like the words that they like write and say in their music. You're able to see like what inspired that, and it gives you like an amazing understanding, a complete understanding of like that body of work. But I just wanted to comment on that. But my name is Javante Sellers. I'm a junior sociology major, minor in economics from Antioch, California. And the first thing was, another thought I had before getting into my question was, when reading like the written portion of the interview interview that you had, when you spoke about Michelle and when she like left the area, and you were basically like looking past her situation and understanding like what might have caused her to be in that, and just wanting to know more about her. That made me just think about like, I respected that thought and like that you wrote about that, because I think that's something that's beneficial to see, like looking past people's situations and understanding like what can cause them to be there. So I want to respect that. But my question is, earlier in the conversation when you spoke about the white gaze, I want to know, when it came to like writing this, or just like in any of the work that you've ever done, has anything ever came up in your mind about the black gaze? And just thinking about like when we always think about like what white people are perceiving about us, I feel like something that's starting to become a lot more common is like we're starting to not care so much about what white people are thinking, but we care a lot more about what our own people are thinking about what we do when it comes to like our work and just more about ourselves. And then even at an HBCU, that's even more prevalent. So I want to know anything that you would have to say about that, or has that came up in your work or anything?
Yeah. Thank you for that. And that's a great question, because really what you're getting at is the essence of like groupthink as like a phenomenon that's like not exclusive to white people. They don't have like a corner on that market, even though they have a very powerful groupthink. This came up the other day when I was talking to a friend, and we were talking about media criticism and stan culture, and how a lot of people feel restricted to not be able to give their honest opinions about artwork, especially black art, if that person, if the artist has a stan fan base.
So criticizing Beyonce's new country.
I would never do that.
I know you
I would never.
but, yeah.
But you know, like Drake, for example. Drake is somebody that I have issues with, that has a very large, active fan base. I think that it's important to be aware of what other people think, right? Because like we live in a society, and sometimes what other people think can be instructive, right? And like, you know, you should be thinking, is there something, if this many people are thinking this, what does it mean? It doesn't necessarily have to influence the work that you do, but it can also be instructive, right? So like a lot of people, for example, I want to use a cleaner situation than the one that I'm thinking of. But people feel a reason to defend Nicki Minaj online, for example. Like there are people who want to dox people over Nicki Minaj. That should not stop you from writing about Nicki Minaj. But I think in writing about Nicki Minaj, you might want to include a couple lines that are like, she has fans that care so much about her that they will risk going, oh, is that a Nicki fan in the back? But you know, she has fans that care so much about her that they're willing to risk going to prison over her. So what does that mean, right? Like about her artistry,
Her impact on culture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's worth acknowledging. So it should be instructive, but it shouldn't define what you do.
Okay.
I like that.
Thank you for the answer. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Yes, please.
Good morning. I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you for being here. Just having this conversation. It's a blessing to be here. My name is Nas McCullough, a first-year CG major from Los Angeles, California.
Oh, dope.
And my question was, do you feel like there was anything that you missed or you wish that you put in your book after time passed?
That's a good question. I mean, it's a very long book. Like I put a lot in the book. I wish that I had written more about my own experiences growing up in a community that was hard hit by the crack epidemic. In journalism, you know, we learn to sort of never be the story, to really be invisible. But I think the thing that people have really responded the most to is the introduction to the book, where I write about my neighbor Michelle, who was an addict, and then the end of the book when I write about the impact that writing it had on me. You know, but there are lots of other experiences in between. And I think the reason why I wish I had written about that is when a person, when a journalist writes about themselves and their experience, you can actually feel the stakes that they have in it. You take them more seriously, but also it's another view into the story. So if I write about just how difficult it was to find people in recovery to include in the book, then you also then understand something about recovery. You know? So if I could go back, that's the one thing that I would change, that I would write more about my process and more about my experience growing up.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Last question. Yes, sir.
Yep. Good morning, Dr. Rice and Mr. Ramsey. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you.
My name is Fadrell Green. I'm a freshman journalism major, and it's funny how you mentioned media criticism. I had just co-written an article about Dr. Umar Johnson, who was supposed to come to speak to the campus. The article got a lot of social media feedback, and because, or I don't know, but after the article getting published, the event ended up getting canceled here at Morehouse. So I just wanted to ask you, because I've still been thinking about, the impact of the story and how, like, even though I'm still like only a first-year student, I was able to produce that kind of work. How do you handle something like that journalistically, like mentally? Like, how do you handle like having that kind of impact at such a young age and, only being a freshman?
Yeah. First, I want to hear everything about this piece because I like. So wait a minute. So Dr. Umar was coming to campus. Who was bringing him to campus?
Antonio Sweeney.
Okay. It's like beside the point. I mean, I think here's the thing. As a journalist, all you can do is tell the truth. Like, that is like the top mantle on you, is to tell the truth and to tell as full of a truth as you can. If you were honest in the piece, then like you deal with what the rest of us deal with, which is accountability. And I think especially in a community of this size, the good thing about it is that you have to be accountable to the people that read you and also to the people that you write about. That's not hard when you're being honest. And then when you are being accurate as well. So, the truth is your shield. And you should be encouraged by the fact that what you wrote was interesting enough, obviously had enough truth in it that people were moved by it. And hopefully that's not the end of the conversation, right? Mm-hmm. That it doesn't just end with Dr. Umar canceling or, being disinvited, but that you could then follow up and have conversations to people that wanted him to come about why they wanted him to come. It's like the Nicki Minaj thing, right? That like there's more to know and more to understand about that event. But try not to think about it too much. Yeah.
Thank you. Can I suggest this? Thank you for the question. Can I suggest this also in kind of connecting it to you? I would imagine that it's also important to make sure that you have a moral center. Like, why are you writing these stories? Because I think that, a lot of times when you get recognition for the things you do, you want to make sure that you're not doing things in service to the recognition. Sure. You're doing it in service to and in purpose for the betterment or for a greater good, right? That's what my hope is. So the idea is you don't get too in your head about a thing or too jazzed up because, oh, look at all this power that I'm wielding, because the responsibility to whom much is given, much is required, right? And so the idea is if you have a gift or a talent in terms of being able to write, how is it that you're going to make sure that that's channeled in a way that's doing something toward a greater good, right? And that's something that I think you've demonstrated in terms of anchoring yourself. What we said in the very beginning is anchoring yourself in something that's greater and more significant than you personally, right? So your connection to the community you came from in Ohio, the connection to the community that you have here, I think is so important. I want to tell you personally, and you know this, that I love you very much. I am so proud of you, and I so thank you for making time to be here. Obviously, this is the first time I think you've been at Crown Forum and in conversation, but I know that you come back to campus all the time. And so I congratulate you certainly on the hardest thing that you've ever done, which is When Crack Was King. I think it's sold out at the bookstore now, but one of the things I will do is I'm going to commit to buying tens of copies, if not a couple of hundred, so that we can pass them out to students. All right, so congratulations. A round of applause for Mr. Donovan Ramsey, please.
Thanks, y'all.
So I think how this goes is we're going to stand up, we're going to sing the hymn. I guess the curtain will be drawn back and you all will scan a QR code and you guys can be on your way, okay? So let's stand up and lock arms, please. So thank you so much, man. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Excuse me, gentlemen, can I take a photo?
Having fun? Hey.
You doing all right?
That's good. They still got some medication.
I'm all gray now. Y'all look good. Ain't that something?
Like that one with the LL Cool J, so you don't have to count my dad. Right. 1, 2, 3, so happy.
I'm grandmother now. I'm a Gigi. As of last year. She's a year. Yeah. Yes.
That's good.
So, how's the family and everybody?
Everything's good. Yeah, I'm still unmarried, single. You know,
You
no
got time. You
kids.
how old?
I'm 36. Yeah, but just earned one.
Well, see, y'all can have them till y'all like 8.
That's
but
true.
you ain't gonna have no energy for them.
Yeah.
We still in Kilgore till we get our new building. Oh, are you?
Hey, how you doing, sir?
I'm all right. I'm a freshman music major.
Okay.
This is a voice theater performance minor.
Yeah.
I had questions, but I was gonna run us way over.
Okay.
But I don't want to keep you here too long, so I'm gonna try to keep it quick. But 2 questions. One, so I took English 103.
Okay.
Right? So I did very well in my English class. I took AP Lang when I was in high school. So I'm done with shit. Thank God. No, I'm joking. But one feedback that I did get very, very often was that my work, even in writing, was very opinionated.
Okay.
Right? It came off as very passionate and opinionated. So my question is, how do you stray away from that? Because I've taken English all my life, right?
Yeah.
And I've been writing essays, doing all sorts of things, asking teachers these same questions.
Yeah.
And I've never been able to step away from it.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I don't think that you should necessarily. Like, I think that, if the assignment is to not write opinion, then basically you just have to ask yourself, is this statement a verifiable fact?
right.
And if it's not, then you got to strike that line.
Okay.
But if you know that your voice is mostly around opinion, then at least professionally, then that's what you should guide yourself towards.
Okay.
That you'll get assignments that are not opinion, have to be just straight news, and it can be hard to